Welcome to day 4, y'all. So this is the halfway point. Thank y'all very much for hanging out with me, for sticking it out. I'm super proud of y'all. I really hope this has been helpful. Today is what I would consider a very niche topic. We're going to talk about beats. I, for one, love working with beats. I just absolutely love it. I will say at least half the Sudowrite users, maybe even the majority, do not like beats. So if you end up liking them, yay. But if you don't, it's not a you thing. Many people don't like them. Why do I like beats? As you're going to see, it allows me to really flesh out a scene. So remember, I told y'all in my brain dump, synopsis, outline, I keep them very simple, very basic. This plot point is happening. That's pretty much it. But in the beats, I can really start fleshing things out, bring in the details I know I want included when it writes the prose. And even if I don't have an idea of how I want that scene playing out, letting the AI generate the beats will usually trigger something for me. All right, so today I have a few topics for us to cover. And what are beats? Actually, I'm going to show you this before we dive in because I know there was that question, what exactly are beats? So these are beats. This is your beats box right here. If you don't see this, it's this typewriter icon right there. Gets rid of it, pops it back up. Or you can exit out and then pop it back with that typewriter. So this is your beats box. You can have the AI generate beats with this button, which we are actually going to see. Ignore this. This is linked to a beta thing, so you might not have this. But we will play around with generating beats later. But I want to show you this because this is the best example I can give of how I like to write my beats. With that story we are currently working on, unfortunately, I'm just going to be straight up honest. I will not be able to give you the best example because I'm not attached to the story. I don't have ideas for it. So we're pretty much just going to be working with what the AI gives us. This story, however, is one I've been working on since 2019, and I know exactly how I wanted this part of the scene to play out. So this is an example of how I want to write it. This is one beat, and it looks very thick. You'll hear us say thin or thick beats. This is a very thick one. However, it has a lot of details because I don't want the AI to make things up. For instance, this part right here was put in before we had world building cards. Now with world building cards, I can just put that inside a card for the altar and let it know how it looks, what exactly it looks like and everything. But before that, I needed to put it in there because I didn't want to say she was in front of an altar and have the AI make up how that altar looked. Remember, things snowball, whether good or bad. So the AI might make up how this altar looks and it might throw off something else for how that scene's going to play out. So if you know what you want, tell the AI, okay? That could be as simple as guiding it. So now that I have a world building card, I can just make sure it definitely does reference that. This part right here, 99% certain it's going to make it go to that world building card. That's what it's designed to do for the AI. When you mention it, I mentioned Alicia, it's going to check Alicia's card, see what details it needs to bring in. I mentioned the altar of the first slayer, it's going to go grab that card. But what do I say? Don't give the AI the chance to mess up. So if you just have any doubts or if you just want to CYA, go ahead and pop the name of that card that you want it to reference right here. I could also do it in a beat header. And we're going to cover the difference in beat headers, beats, and all of that. But I could put that information up here if I wanted instead. So it knows altar the first layer is going to be referenced. All right, so this is just an idea of how I like to do mine when I really do have an idea of how that scene should play out. Remember, I also use scene and chapter interchangeably. I write my chapters as scenes. I write my scenes as chapters. So I am putting it word for word how I see that scene playing out. I know this scene is going to open with her standing in front of the altar. Again, I described the altar so it wouldn't make something up. and I am saying exactly what that character does, what that character's thinking. And then here at the end, you'll notice the parentheses stuff. I think we briefly talked about this, the difference between square brackets and parentheses. Does the AI say, oh, this is square brackets, that means this. This is parentheses, that means that. No, it doesn't. It really does see them as the same. However, whether it's coincidence or I'm wrong and it actually does view them differently, been told by many technical people that is not the case. Square brackets I use for instructions. Parentheses I use to give additional context, and this seems to work very well. It makes the AI do exactly what I want when I'm giving it instructions and in that context. Like I said, that could be coincidence. But mainly, this is very easy for me to spot things. So imagine if this is just all one text, no parentheses here, no square brackets, because there's going to be a whole lot of beats in these boxes. And so imagine me trying to look for a mistake, or I'm just double checking my beats before I generate prose. It's going to be very difficult for me to spot what I told it to do versus additional information I gave it versus the actual scene information. So that's my main reason for using square brackets and parentheses. So in this one, I ended with parentheses. So she cut a palm, to declare her intention to participate in the ritual. But I wanted the AI to write the scene accurately, and that meant giving it the context. Hey, she's a very sickly person, and she's very susceptible to sickness. And it did a good job of that. When it wrote it out, it had mentioned, hope she wouldn't get sick and all of that. And it brought it into the prose in a way that wasn't on the nose. That's what I've noticed doing the parentheses does. If I don't have the parentheses there, I've noticed more often than not, it will say pretty much exactly this on the nose, and I don't want that. Instead, I want it to weave in this information into the scene that I give it. All right, so this is what beats are. Beats, beat header. We're going to dive into this more. I'm going to link this again. It's pretty much the same, except I added these two sections right here. So I don't know if y'all want to grab it. There you go. I am also going to link this document. This one is good. It was done in our Beats Deep Dive class. And this is pretty much every tip, everything I can tell you about beats, okay? So this is good once you understand the basic stuff. Looking at this one, you'll get the basic info again, but you'll understand some ways to play around with it. Again, I really want to share this one because since I don't have a good idea for this story, I'm very limited in what I can show you. In one of the new things that I linked was the playlist for this. This is a bunch of deep dives, and I think you may find them useful. So we have a style one, genre, of course, those are coming up. We have characters and world building, outline, and a Beats deep dive here. So if this was too much or you want to look at things a little bit differently, maybe check out this Beats class. But I think you'll enjoy these deep dives as well. Basic beat information. Let me look at my spiel here that I typed out for y'all. Obviously, y'all can read that. So the main thing I like, as I mentioned before, I have 2,000 words to play with in that beats box. Bring up my other one here. Just going to do a blank document. So this box holds 2,000 words. So again, that allows you to put a lot of information in here. And this was especially useful back when you didn't have a big outline box to put a lot of information in. And like I said, I have noticed even putting a lot of information in my outline, the details don't get brought over into the beats. That's why I leave my chapter summaries very simple, concise, and then I put all of the details here. So 2,000 words to play with. You can do so much with it, y'all. You can put lines of dialogue in there, what a character's wearing, what the weather's like outside, more information about the setting, how a character moves, another character's react. If you can think of it, you can put it in there. You can even guide the AI to do something. An example I can give is in one of the classes me and Tabby did, or Tabby, I think, was doing that class, sorry. She had a character receive a text message. And it was just, random hate, just a little part of the scene, no big deal. The AI wrote the prose. Well, then we went back and she added in square brackets instructions. Hey, write out a text message from her jerk of a boyfriend breaking up with her in, a jerkish way. So she didn't know how she wanted that text message to sound, but she gave the AI that prompt. And guess what? The AI did it, and it did a good job of that. So those are different kind of things you can do in the Beats box. Avoid pronouns. If you cannot remember any tip from this class today, remember this one, okay? Do not use pronouns. Do not use a group, the man, the woman. I'm going to give y'all my little demonstration. Let me actually go to my other. So I'm going to give y'all the demonstration I usually give. Experienced users, sorry for the millionth repeat for this. Y'all probably know these examples by heart now. Blow this up for y'all. Is that good? Everybody can see that pretty well. I'm going to take that as a yes. That or y'all cannot hear me at all. And y'all just been waiting for me to say something. All right. Does anybody know what is going to happen in this? Particularly, what's going to happen right here with those two words, a man? Anybody know?
I'm guessing the AI will just make up a person, not even somebody who's probably in your outline.
Very good. That is exactly what is going to happen. It's either going to say, oh, you got a man here. Let me go grab somebody. Let's say, this was a man walking into the coffee shop too. For whatever reason, you only had one man in your list or you didn't have any in your character list. It's going to make something up to fill that role. Because you told it, hey, she's walking in and she's seeing a man. It's got to do something, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be listening. So you want to be specific. It'll either grab the wrong character or it'll make up a character. All right, so you change it. You get specific now. All right, so she walks into the coffee shop and she sees Michael leaning against the counter. That's pretty good, right? There's really nothing wrong with this other than it being a thin beat, but we're going to get into stuff like that later. However, after you've worked with AI for a while, you're going to understand its little nuances and quirks. One of the things, especially if this is a romance novel, like I've told it, hey, this is a romance. When she walks into that coffee shop and she sees Michael, I've named him. I've done what Nicole said. I named my character. Guess what? Now it's likely going to have either Sarah ruminate on her past with Michael, how much she hates him, how much she's still in love with him, or they're going to start talking, oh, hey, haven't seen you in so long, or maybe they just had a date. Who knows? The AI is going to do something because you told it, hey, this character and this character in the coffee shop, they're noticing each other. And this is a romance, so it makes perfect sense that, they're going to talk. But let's say you don't want that to happen yet. This is your meet cute. This is where you don't give the AI the chance to mess up. So I can tell it, if this is the case, of course. Cat box is getting in the way. I hope I typed that correctly. There we go. So now I've done everything I should, right? I've named the character, no vagueness. And I'm also letting you know, hey, they don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. If I want to, for each of those beats, the beats are going to continue. Let's say I just want them checking each other out in the coffee shop for a while. So I can keep putting this in each beat until I'm ready for them to talk. So if I'm ready in beat 5 for them to actually talk, I wouldn't put it there. But you might want to leave this in there. Again, this is just things you get comfortable with and understand to do or not do as you're working with the AI. So when I'm actually ready for them to talk, I would probably leave this in here. That just avoids me having to tell the AI and they're not, talking about that summer they spent together or whatever. So don't use vague wording. We have a teacher, she learned the hard way too on putting like the group, the team, I think was her terminology. Well, the team could be anybody. Now, thanks to character cards and that groups label, we can actually say, name it. For instance, let's say you're doing a college romance or something, sports romance. And you want to put which team the characters are on. That works great in the group setting. So that group one right here. If they're part of the CIA, the FBI, a certain city's task force, certain mob family, biker group, you could put all of that information here. Now, the team has said that this is not pulling in as well as they'd hoped. It's not eliminating the worries that people had with putting those group names. So you still want to be cautious in your beats. Don't think just because you put it here, that's solving all your problems. Right now, it currently isn't. So you don't want to put the team. You want to be specific. If you have a group of 5 characters, you don't want to say, hey, the group walked into the club. You want to list those characters' names out. Does everybody understand the importance of not using pronouns and vague wording? Any questions on that? All right, looks like we're good. Interrupt me if y'all come across something. All right, and something you'll also notice too when getting rid of those pronouns, there's the occasional time when I'm actually editing my beats, I will see, oh, the AI might have gotten it confused and thought it was this guy instead of this guy, if 2 are in the scene or something. So you'll probably see that more. I see it maybe once every few chapters when I'm editing the beats where it's really obvious a human could have messed this up, so the AI definitely could have as well. All right, let's see. Beat headers. Let's skip this one for now, but this is some information on beat headers. So you can combine beats. Remember what I talked about thin beats and thick beats. Go back to our thing. I am going to grab a chapter here. Let's see. Let's just do our chapter 1. So to create a chapter, that document, make the document pop up over here. You can click the 3 dots, create chapter 1. And I now have a chapter 1 document. You see it's linked right here. Or I can click new and do whatever chapter I want. They do the same thing, okay? It's just a matter of where you want to do it. I'm in the habit, I've always done it from here, so that's what I do. I just click whichever chapter I want to work on. It does the same thing where it'll create the document, link that chapter of the outline, and then you can generate your beats. So it's seeing all of this information, and I'm going to click generate beats. While that's doing, let's go back to this. So you'll see when the AI generates beats, now they have been improved recently, so they're doing a lot better. But typically it was like one sentence beats. Now it'll typically do about 2 sentences per beat, and it's anywhere from 12 to 15. I'm fine, I'm getting 15 the majority of the time. So we're going to play around with looking at leaving them separate versus making them nice and thick. Guardrails, focus, and drivers, that's something you will cover in here, I think, maybe not. I don't even think I did focus on guardrails. Can't even talk now. But we can focus on that. But basically, guardrails, focuses, and drivers are just ways to put additional information in the beats. So like I gave it that background context of, Alicia sickly, things like that. Or even in the case of that Sarah Michael one. Did I leave that one up or delete it? So in that case of Sarah and the Michael one, I could have like put focus on something like that. A guardrail I like to use a lot is I'm going to copy this one. I do not hesitate to put this in every beat if I think I need to. It's not going to mess anything up. This is especially useful for instance, it's cliche, but if two female best friends are talking, guess what? The AI is going to get so cheesy and cliche, and that is not me. I know some people like that. Kudos to you. That's just not how I like to read, not how I like to write. I don't even like talking to people that way. So I do love to put this in the beats if I think it's possible the AI is going to go get cheesy on me. And it works very well. Drivers. Oh, can anybody think of a good driver? Any of my experienced users? Let's see, driver. This is just to kind of show you the difference between like the focus, guardrails, and drivers. And there are more. There's character motivations, there's different things. I actually have a document on that. If anybody decides they want to take that next step, focus on guardrails, drivers, and all that, let me know. Message me on Discord. I can link that document to you. But focus is shining a spotlight. You really want, when the AI is writing that scene, you really want it to focus right here on this thing, this emotional element, this physical thing happening, whatever, character's thoughts, their actions. You're just shining that spotlight with a focus. Guardrail, I always think of it, I imagine, the guardrails on the road. You're telling the AI you're staying right here. You're not veering off and doing this thing. You're not veering off over here and doing that. You are staying right here and you are going to do this or not do this. Those guardrails, think of it as on either side, but you're telling it, hey, you are doing this right here or you are not doing this. For instance, the avoiding right here. On that note, do not say, do not use, do not, the word not or don't use any, those don't work as well. Avoid and shun. Those two words work better than saying do not do this. So instead of don't write purple prose, avoid purple prose, shun purple prose, something along those lines. If you're like me, you don't like dialogue tags, we'll actually get to that in the style box. But there you go, bonus tip. We'll cover that more in style. I like to use that. So instead of saying don't use dialogue tags, you could say avoid, shun. I like this prompt. I find the AI uses it very well. Drivers are kind of what's pushing that scene. Why is this scene happening? Somebody wants to kill somebody. There's your driver right there. They're really invested in getting this person into the ground, chopping off their head, doing whatever. So highlight shining a spotlight on what's happening, telling the AI what to do or what to avoid, what is driving the scene. That's the best ways that I can think of to explain the difference in those. So let's look at our beats that got generated here and talk about thin and thick beats. If I can get it scroll up, there we go. So it gave us 13 beats, and it did do approximately 2 beats or 2 sentences per beat, so that's good. So words you'll hear us say, beats and strides. This is a beat. This is a beat. Each one of these is a beat, okay? This is the beats box. If you hear us say stride, a stride is 2 beats. That's how the AI writes. It's going to write its first stride right here. Second stride is going to be this one. Third stride. So beat is each singular one. A stride is 2 of them combined. So if you want to make thick beats, and this is what I'm going to have to rely on for this story since I don't have ideas for it, see what it says. He's at the navigation console. I'm not crazy about this, but again, I don't have a vision, so I can't change it up to my liking. But just as with all the other boxes, when I say get rid of any AI wording you don't like, it is most important, in my opinion, it is most important in the character cards and in the beats box, okay? The AI pulls very heavily from these 2 things when it's writing your prose. So if you do not like the wording, change it. If you're writing spicy romance and you want vulgar or crude wording, use it in your beats, okay? Use those body parts, whatever you want your characters to say or the narrative style to be for describing body parts, you describe them as well that way in your beats. If you want lots of violence, blood splatter, gore, all of those things, try to use those wording in your beats. If you want funny output, try to rewrite this and actually make it pretty funny, you know. Again, it's one of those things that helps snowball everything. All right, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. There's no tension on, there shouldn't be a tense atmosphere, right? Because there we go, yeah. He receives the distress signal here. So again, it's gonna write these 2 beats together as a stride. I think these can go together. I don't see these writing a lot of prose. And this is something you'll get used to as you start working more with beats, if that's the route you choose to go. There are other ways to write in Sudowrite. If beats look already like they're discouraging you, this is not the only way to write. We'll look at the others another day. Actually, I think tomorrow or day after. But as you work more with beats, you'll start to get an idea for what's going to do what we call looping. That's where it almost repeats the same scene. It might open up the same way, but end it in a different way. That is called looping. So to get rid of that, especially while you're getting comfortable with what to do, you can just combine a couple of beats. I can do that all the way through. So every 2 beats, I'm going to stick together. I'm not going to go through all the way. So that's a difference, right? Size of this versus the size of that. Size matters, folks. All right. Again, put in your details. Get rid of the AI wording you don't like, but also put in what you do want. If whistling a cheerful tune, if I know I want him whistling what's that? Pop Goes the Weasel. I want him whistling Pop Goes the Weasel. I will put that in here because the AI can't read my mind. If I have that vision, maybe I want him whistling some pop tune or, oops, I did it again. If you have that vision in mind, tell the AI, make it yours. All right. So again, I don't have a good vision for this. I can't really make it mine, but hopefully you get the point. So that's thick versus thin. And y'all saw how I like to do my other beats. I'll show it again. I need to go ahead and close that one out. Let's see. So again, this one's mine. Looks like a lot, but it's mostly a description, like all of this. is a description of the altar, just so the AI can use it. Let me go back and try to keep myself on track because I'm already veering. So I talked about putting lines of dialogue, even gave that text message example. Include cliffhanger ending. This is a trick I learned from one of the members of the team, Ryan Mather. So I had a series I was outlining. It was the first book of the series, and the AI wants to do its job, y'all. That's its main focus. So my outline, that first book actually ends on a major cliffhanger with a character being kidnapped, and it's supposed to just stop. That's it. End of story. Literally. But the AI wanted to do its job. It's like, oh, you're trying to write a novel. I need to give you an ending. That would be awesome. So it kept creating new chapters and, taking that story in a different direction. So no matter what I tried, I couldn't get it to work. He suggested putting this in the genre box. Because remember, outline doesn't pull from style, but it does pull from genre. So I did put the include cliffhanger ending in my genre box. Worked like a charm. It ended exactly how I wanted it to end. You can also put this in your genre or style box. I've actually put them in both, I think the majority of the time. That way I don't have to worry about, oh, is this pulling from genre or style? Your beats, look at both before they get generated. So when I clicked this generate beats button, it looked at genre and style. Remember that diagram that y'all have here. So beats, they're seeing genre, they're seeing style, they're seeing outline, characters, synopsis, and world building. Again, I've never seen much pull from synopsis, but it does go into here, it says. So include that cliffhanger ending does help. Maybe you really want that chapter to end on a cliffhanger when it generates the beats. You can put it there. All right, let's jump back up here and talk about beat headers real quick. So y'all see, I just combined these and I didn't change up the numbers, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, the AI does not care. If I come down to this check beats button, it puts everything in order for itself. It doesn't matter. I can remove these numbers right here. So these first four don't have a number. You see what it did, right? So now we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the important thing to remember with beat headers. If you're going to use one, your first beat needs to have a number. And then it sees all of them again. Doesn't matter that these after it, I could get rid of all of these, that's fine. Doesn't matter if they're not in order. Still sees them all there. It has that first beat with the number. That's all it really needs. And if you're using a beat header, I'm just going to copy one real quick. Let me make sure I did all this, I think. Yep. I'm just going to copy this beat header real quick. So this is a beat header. You don't have to have the square brackets. You can jump down here, you see header right there. If I get rid of the square brackets, no big deal. Scroll back down, still sees it as a header. But again, I like to have it in there. It just visually helps me differentiate things. Now, if I got rid of this number, scroll back down to that check beats button, you see it is now including my beat header as the first beat. Put that number in there, scroll back down one more time. I think it's the last time. My header's back, and we have all of the beats.
Nicole, you said there was a check beat box. I didn't see you where it was.
Right
Check
here.
beat.
So it's just
Okay.
under the where your beats are.
Uh-huh.
There's this right here.
Okay.
And you just click it. Yeah, it doesn't really look, it looks like just words actually, but it is clickable. Maybe we should have them adjust that actually. Bring that to their attention. It just looks like words, but if you hover over it, it does the little shading. All right, so what exactly is a beat header? What good is it? Oh, look at my memory kicking in. One of the questions asked before class started was, how can I get the AI to remember things that happened in other chapters? Because the AI doesn't. If this was chapter 7 and I had chapters 1 through 6 all over here, the AI does not see them, okay? I am going to grab a video. I linked this the other day. I'm going to link it again. I cannot stress enough how good this video is to watch if you need what is referred to as chapter glue, and that's what you're needing. For the AI to see other stuff, you're wanting chapter glue. So here's the link again to that video. It is Secret Tips and Tricks with Stacy. There are multiple options. This is where I can really only tell you what others do. I do not use this, okay? But a beat header can be your chapter glue. There are plugins that will recap the story up to that point. Watch that video because Stacy mentions a couple of them. And you can put that information in your beat header. She talks about other ways to use things like world building card. So she will actually have a world building card that is, I forget what she calls it, chapter recap, chapter summary, story summary. I don't remember what it's called. But she actually has a world building card. And let me just bring up a blank one. So it'll be named whatever. You can call it chapter glue if you want. Each of these fields will be a chapter. And in each of them, she will put the recap for that chapter. And then in her header, she can put whatever that card is called. It's called recap, story brief, whatever you want to call it. I've now told the AI, hey, go reference this. And it's now going to look and know everything that's in that card. So that is another way. World building card is one way to let the AI know what happened up to this point. You can also use this beat header, have a short summary of stories up to the chapters up to this point, the story up to this point, however you want to look at it. So again, please watch that class. That's about all of the information I can give you on that. Otherwise, beat headers are good for additional details. This is actually a new part of my workflow. I learned this tip from Gianna. So you'll often hear us say, change your genre and style box up and your character cards, of course, as you write the story, as things change. It's important for the genre and style because a lot of times, yes, I know this is going into style class. You'll hear me preach on it again. But a lot of times people put something in their genre or style that really does fit the whole book, but it might not actually fit that chapter. And the best reference I can give before I try to get myself back on track here is like, think of a horror show, horror movie or something. In the Jason movies, there's always the friends going out into the woods or to somebody's house and having a party, right? Well, only like 75% of the time does somebody die. So you might actually have that one scene opening up where nobody is supposed to die, but yet in your genre or style, you said, hey, this is horror, this is body slasher, and I want bloody depictions of gore. It doesn't matter. I want you to hear me on this. It does not matter if your beats do not say it happens. Just because I don't have anybody dying right here, if I tell it in my genre and style box, somebody's got to die and I want bloody depictions of this. It's going to make that happen. It's doing its job. It's doing what you told it. But Nicole, I didn't tell it in the beats. But it's looking at your style and genre when it writes the prose, y'all. Okay. This is important for people doing erotica, stuff like that. Well, I didn't want the characters to get it on in this scene. I learned this one the hard way. If you have erotica in your genre box, all of the characters. Every character is going to get it on within 5 minutes of meeting each other. I learned that with a psychiatrist story I was doing. She had a mob boss come in. Hadn't met him before, but she opens her office. It's like 8 a.m., 8:30, I think the story said. She opens it up. Well, her best friend calls, female best friend. I had erotica in my genre box. So the next thing I know, they're having phone sex. She hangs up with her, starts thinking about her ex-lover. And then finally, the mob guy, brand new client, she hasn't met him before at all. He comes into her office and it's the cheesiest thing, but she's there. Okay, what brings you into my office today? And he's all, I think you know why I'm here. And they get it on. That's the repercussions of having erotica in your genre box, y'all. So if you don't want people to get it on, don't have that in your box. Another thing to consider is if you have minors in your story. Somebody has kids, you're doing a single dad, single mom romance or something, or whatever, just somebody has some kids, but you have something spicy in your genre or style box, it can trigger the AI and say, nope, not doing that. Because even though you're not saying, hey, things are happening with the kid, you told it in that genre or style, yes, this is a spicy scene. And it's like, no, it isn't. There's a kid here. It's like having the dog watch you or something. So keep that in mind. Your genre and style need to match how you want this scene to play out. If you want it to be horrifying, sexual, violent, just a regular day at the coffee shop, those boxes need to reflect that. And my point after that tangent was a tip I learned from Gianna. Instead of me always going back and changing my style box to fit how I wanted that scene to play, she keeps her style box where it does fit the whole story, like third person, first person, past tense, present, minimal descriptions, lush descriptions, those type of things that really are throughout the entire story. And then here in her beat header, she will start to say, okay, now it's violent or it's sexual or whatever need be. So there's lots of things you can do with your beat header. Make it work for you. And I've included my favorite beat header, Stacy's. This is a very popular one. I think I got the right one that everybody likes. Your beat header can also be stuff like this, y'all. It can be something very simple. So what is that scene? They get a stress signal. Okay. So maybe instead I want it focus on the captains. Can't think of the wording. This isn't right, but you'll know what I mean. So I can keep it very simple. Hey, whenever you write this scene right here, I want you to focus on the captain's thoughts and decision-making process. It's not going to help much after it gets past the first couple of beats. So that is something to remember. This applies to all of your beats. If you don't want it to, there's absolutely nothing wrong with putting it right here. So now it's only going to apply to this stride. Maybe here. So now on this one, I can type, I swear. Side note, always make sure one of the first things I do after I generate beats is I make sure this ending one is what I want. The AI sees all of the beats before it starts generating prose. It doesn't matter if you're going to be one of those people that pauses as you go and edits. it still reads everything in the beats box. So make sure this last beat reflects how you want that scene chapter to end, okay? And it's a very thin one, so I'm just going to attach it to there. A lot of times, your last one or two beats might even make for a good beat header. So keep that in mind too. But you see how instead I just put it here because it applies to this beat or stride, and it applies here. Okay, the crew's debating, so hey, that one fits there too. So that's the difference between having it up here as your beat header versus in the beats. If it's as the beat header, all of them are going to be doing whatever you said in that beat header or taking that information into account, or I can put it here where it applies. Up to you. Beat headers are fun to play with. I know we have some questions. Let me cover one more thing before I forget. And I still feel like I have missed probably half of the information about beats. So please, y'all, if y'all want to learn more, check out this document that I linked. And the playlist right here. Like I said, there is the Beats deep dive video. I think it's the last one in this playlist, but feel free to watch any of them, of course. All right, one more thing I want to mention. Remember, I said the other day while we were in outline that there's one other thing I like to do in outline, right? But it applied to beats. So y'all saw how the beats were generated. I'm actually going to restore the original version. I'm just going to restore this. So this is what the beats were when they generated, right? He's at the navigation console, pacing. This isn't going to make much of a difference because I followed this, but I'm going to come down here. I actually like to give instructions here in the outline box, and I demonstrate examples in the Beats Deep Dive document right here. So this is just a few things, y'all. Tailoring this, your options are really unlimited. It's up to your imagination. This is something I like to do actually with the quick edit feature. After Sudowrite generates the beats, we'll do that one real quick. Hopefully we have time. But these are some instructions I can put in the chapter summary to make the beats generate the way I want. And yes, y'all can write your own beats. You don't have to generate beats. If you know what you want, you know how to format your beats and everything, feel free to, instead of clicking that generate beats button, you just type them in there. But let's say for this chapter, I'm not sure how I want to word this. Just an example, not the best case, but now I'm telling it, and I got most of this from the beats already generated, so there's not going to be a huge difference. But if I know, hey, when I generate the beats, I really want you to focus on this. If there's a battle happening and I really want it to focus on the battle, focusing on maybe a fight between certain individuals, showing one character's moves and all of that, a character's death, whatever you want those beats to focus on when they get generated, put the instructions here in your chapter summary, and whenever you generate the beats, that'll help. So let's do this real quick. So now that we have those instructions, generate the beats again. Taking some water, excuse me. If you didn't hear my water bottle squeaky lid. All right. Let's look at, giving it a chance to finish real quick. Okay. So again, this was our original. Why is it going down there? Right, so these were our original beats, what the AI came up with. Calls for a meeting. Okay. And this. Jade, if you don't mind, could you let them know in the helper channel that it is, even though I'm clicking on chapter 1, it is bouncing to that bottom like it was doing, I think, for y'all. All right, so this is with the instructions. He's still at the navigation console because remember, I got my ideas from what it already generated, but hey, it brought it in. Okay, now he's whistling Pop Goes the Weasel. It's capturing his carefree demeanor. This is from his character card, so you see how it brought that in. Okay, the captain's here, showing his internal conflict, weighing the risk and benefits. I'm just looking. Okay, so there we go. So there's the asteroid field again. Back to Bjorn, and he's transitioning just like I asked it to do. Now he's serious concentration, quick thinking, adaptability, all of that. And inject humor into the situation by having him crack lighthearted jokes. So you see how it brought in those instructions. So that's another thing you can do with your chapter summary that does affect the beats and how they get generated. And again, play around with those different examples that I gave here. This was a very good one, but I can say last time I checked, it wasn't doing as well, but you might want to give it a try. But now it's actually doing a better job of beats naturally, so that might be why this isn't having much of an impact anymore. One last thing before I get to the questions. So I mentioned this one. This is a good one to put inside your chapter summary. So for in the outline before it generates beats, this works great. Another thing that I like to do, the main thing I actually like to do with this prompt now is I'm going to go back to sorry, y'all. I don't know why it's popping way down there. All right, so these are the original beats. I'm going to put my prompt here because I need to copy all of this. So copy, history. I'm just going to copy the beats here. Copy this prompt again. I'm actually going to say, rewrite these beats to be rich in detail. So all I did was change the beginning word. I'm going to copy this, highlight this, and you'll see us do more of this thing whenever we get to the quick tools. But I'm going to use quick edit. Remember, I can highlight up to 1,000 words with quick edit. It also sees my story Bible information, so that helps You can do this with rewrite. I find Quick Edit does a better job though. And hey, it's free. So here's Quick Edit. I'm on the version that uses credits, so I'm going to toggle it off. And there we go. So I'm giving it my prompt. I've highlighted it. I could highlight the whole thing. Let's see. So this is good if you're just, again, getting used to beats. You don't know exactly what you want yet. You don't know how to prompt it. You just want to play around with things. That's my recommendation. Start with that easy beat right there. Either pop it into your outline, your chapter summary, or use it with Quick Edit. I'm going to accept this. And I'm just going to copy the first couple. So this was the original. Don't like it. A lot of AI-isms. This was not a good example. But normally it does much better, I promise. I'll play around with those. All right, what questions do we have? What did I miss?
Nicole, you might have answered mine, but mine was the first one was instructing beats to get them to direct the AI as to what you want the scene and chapter to do in terms of scene goals and conflict and cliffhangers, and with scenes and sequels and the percentage of setting and dialogue instructions. If that's too much. So basically, what I'm asking. So if you instructed, I want 25% dialogue. I want the setting to have like 50% setting. I want that kind of thing. And if the scene has a goal and then it has a disaster within the scene, and then pick the scene back up in the next group of with the glue into the next set of beats that you do in the second chapter, say first chapter, second chapter.
I don't
Does
know.
that make any sense?
It does. I'm just looking for something. I can't find my JSON class. Copy this into the chat, and then I'll actually show you how I've used it.
Okay.
Right, so with that percentage, you can use Quick Chat or Chat GPT, whichever you want. I just copy in like you can copy in that exact one. I put it here. And then I take all of it, all of my chapter summary. So I do this as a chapter at a time. And I ask Quick Chat or Chat GPT to adjust the JSON elements to fit the scene summary. And it will change the numbers for me. So it actually adjusted all of these right here. You probably can't see the differences right away, but there are some little differences right there. Now, here's the tricky part. I cannot tell you whether it's better to do this in the outline, in the chapter summary, or in beats. I was putting it in both. I put it here because, again, I wanted the beats to know when you generate, I want you to focus on this. And then whenever I did the actual, let's see. So when my beats were actually done, I copied the same thing that Quick Chat or ChatGPT had given me into the beats box so that also when it generated prose, it followed that same thing.
Okay.
That's how I do it. Again, I was not in the experimenting mood to say, okay, does it really affect it from outline or does it affect it more from beats? In my mind, it was no big deal to copy it in both places and just let it go.
Okay.
So that's how I do that part. For it to see that what happened in the other chapters, that's why I highly recommend watching Stacy's video, her class, that secret tips and tricks one that I linked,
Mm-hmm.
and see how she uses her world building card to do that. So, have the chapter recaps in each trait field, and then she calls it out in her beat header, so it references that. And then, like I said, some people use their beat header to do a little recap. So her class right there is what I recommend going to, since I don't do that. I can't teach it well, but that one was a really good class.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Let me know if I missed any of that. Thank you, Mr. John, for copying the header. And y'all don't forget, everything is in the documents that I linked here. Copy it again just in case somebody needs it. So that's this document, and where's that other one? The Beats Deep Dive. Yes, there are other ways other than the beats, and we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Actually, I'll show you the other ways. Beats take up a lot of time, I know, and I want to give these other features the time that they deserve because they're actually a very fun way to play with. So tomorrow we'll focus on writing prose, and you'll see a couple of different ways to actually write inside Sudowrite. Did I miss anything? Document on drivers and guardrails. We should actually do a class on this. It's been a long time since we've done a class on it. Y'all are more than welcome to this entire list, y'all. I just didn't want to overwhelm y'all with this being many of you's first week. Most people do actually have that this entire list of documents, though. All right, so I'm going to link the Sudowrite guide. If you scroll down, you'll see the guardrails, drivers, and focus, okay? And it talks a little bit about them and gives you some ideas. There's that. But yes, I'll add it to our thing on doing a class. One other, let's see. Continuing action. This is a big one, y'all. Similar to how we talked about, keeping it in each beat until they actually talk to each other. If you don't want them talking, let it know in each stride. If your characters are doing something throughout all of this, like if I want this entire scene to be them going to the distress signal, I don't want them arriving there. And let's see. I'm just trying to look right here. Okay, so they decide to investigate the signal. They're approaching the planet. However, right here, they hit the asteroid, so they didn't actually arrive, but 90% certain that the AI is going to have them arrive here because, again, it's trying to do its job. You said, hey, they're approaching the planet, so it's like, all right, they're here, let's go. Let's have them meet the inhabitants. If you don't want that to happen, but yes, I tend to repeat things a couple of different ways. I'm saying the same thing, but I'm telling it a couple of different ways. So if there's continuing action, if your characters are continuing an argument, continuing a sword fight, continuing to have intercourse, I can't think of much else besides traveling. So if they're continuing, I will want to pop that into each stride. So strides work in twos. 2, Right, so at the end of this one, when the AI very well could have them arrive at the planet, I don't want that to happen yet. I let it know, hey, don't bring them there yet. And I would actually put it into each stride. So this is a stride, and I can put it here at the end if I don't actually want them to arrive there yet. And then I would put it here. And then if I do want them to actually arrive, maybe I don't want them to arrive there and they're arriving here. So do that continuing action, characters are still arguing, characters are still having a sword fight, whatever, put that continuing action there. There's still much more, like I actually have plugins I like, so hopefully you'll have time to watch that Beats deep dive video. All right, what questions have I missed? Did not answer. I'm trying to scroll through chat. Oh, did I get them? Awesome. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I'll hang around for a few minutes for those of you who want to chat off the recording or look at something else. So thank y'all again for hanging out with me today. We have 5, 6, 7, 3 more days of this. And reminder again, Friday's class is actually going to be at a different time. So Friday's class is the 1:30 instead of at 1. Thank y'all very much. Bye, everyone.